Well, welcome. My first media day as a head coach, but it's an exciting time, exciting week. It's game week. We got our last dress rehearsal last Saturday night with the alumni. I thought it was a great turnout, and the roster that we faced was pretty good. Had some guys a lot of guys are still actively playing. It was a good test for our team. Moving forward, we got New Jersey Tech coming in, a team that it's a veteran team, a team that was tested quite a bit last year. The record wasn't great, but it was a team that put up a fight. Every game was a good game, so it's going to be exciting weekend. Give us an idea of where we're at, and be fun to face a different color uniform. But I'm excited about the team. I'm excited about the options that this roster gives us. A lot of guys, a lot of moving parts, a lot of guys that can play different positions. And same thing with the staff. It's going to be a veteran rotation. It's definitely going to be the strength of our pitching staff. Will be the starting rotation. The bullpen it's kind of falling into place, and people are getting more and more comfortable with their roles. It was a big concern in the fall, but guys came back this spring and have shown a lot of improvement and development, and definitely feel a lot better about the bullpen than where we were back in November when we ended the fall. So I think you're going to find it's going to be an exciting team to watch. A team that's going to play hard. Don't have too many big names right now because a lot of new names, but I promise you before they're done here, they're gonna leave their mark on this program. So I'm excited about this team.
JD, you mentioned in the rotation. Just do you have your first weekend rotation set?
Yeah, so Gage Zeal is going to be our Friday night starter. Rafe Schlesinger will go game 2, and then Herrick Hernandez will go game 3. It's kind of we got the 4-game series. Obviously, we got UCF coming in next weekend. With our starters not being stretched out to the 100 pitch limit yet, we're going to kind of hold off on that 4 starter and see who we might have to use those first 3 games. It's either Vargas or Chestnut. Whoever we have to use those first 3 games, we'll start on Wednesday. Whoever we don't use, we'll start Sunday game 4.
And then with Gage, how has he kind of grown? And obviously, he was in that Friday night role a bit last year. How has he grown as he goes into his 3rd year?
Well, he's a guy, we lost a lot of innings from last year's team. But Gage is the one guy that comes back with the most experience by far. And he started the season last year as our Friday night starter. Lost his job for a few weeks and then came back and ended the season. There was the most consistent guy in the rotation last season. So he's a guy that just brings an instant credibility and leadership in the pitching staff.
Sticking with the pitching staff, since that's what we used to ask you about. Yeah. The closer situation, is that set in stone? Do you have enough guys? However, Mouse is still going to be sort of see how the guys do go on. Do you have a first option right now?
So starting the season, Drew Dreyer is going to be our closer. Drew, we expected, or we thought was going to be one of our starters. He had a minor setback late in the fall, so he's not quite. We weren't able to build him up inning-wise or pitch-wise to be a starter. So he was going to start in the bullpen anyway. We just figured if you're going to be in the bullpen, you might as well be our closer to start the season, and we'll see how that goes. If he has success there, he'll probably stay there. If he doesn't, we'll have to make some moves and figure it out accordingly.
Obviously, some big bats gone from last year. Yo-Yo, most among them. Like, who have been some of the guys who stepped up at new position, new starting roles?
I think some familiar faces that are coming back. I'd say Dorian Gonzalez has had a very good fall and spring. So he's kind of stepped his game up. He was our starting second baseman his freshman year. Lost his position last year to Blake Sear, but he's really got a great summer in the Cape. You just see him. He's playing like a veteran. So he's playing, the familiar name, right? Other than that, it's a lot of new faces, a lot of new names. Daniel Cuvée, freshman at third base, has been very impressive and kind of lived up to the hype of what he's supposed to be. So he's one of those names that you're going to be very, very familiar with in a very quick amount of time. J.D. Urso is a player that we brought in January. He's a grad transfer from the University of Tampa. Just a really, really good baseball player, and he's shown his effects instantly just on the bases. He's not the fastest runner, doesn't have the best arm, not the most physically talented player that we have on our roster, but by far our best baseball player that understands the game and takes advantage of other people's mistakes and little things like that. So he's a guy that a guy like Antonio Jimenez could really learn from, playing the same position. And Antonio has all the ability in the world, but he's a freshman, and he catches up and learns all the little intricacies of the game. base running and things like that, he's going to be a special player to watch as well.
JD, what do you think is the identity of this team that you see so far? First team?
To be a scrappy team, a team that's going to put pressure on defenses on the bases. We're not the fastest, right? But it's an aggressive. You're going to see an aggressive style of baseball on the bases. I'm sure we're going to run into some outs at times, but the defense is going to have to make a play to get us out. It's not going to be reckless, but it's going to be aggressive. And we're going to force the defense to stop us from taking the extra 90 feet.
Blake obviously had a very impressive freshman year last year. How has he, improved maybe from last year?
Offensively, he's special. He's got some special abilities that not many guys have. So, as far as improving, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger. So his pitch recognition has gotten better. But he's got his own challenges, right? He's, like you said, we lost a lot of hitters. He was pretty well protected last year, where he's going to be the focal point to every pitching staff that we face. So he's got some challenges ahead of him, and he's got to understand that he doesn't have to do everything, and just not get in a position where he's getting himself out swinging the back pitches and things like that. So it's definitely a different type of season for him.
Coach, for the first month of the season, you really don't leave town till March 22nd when you head up to South Bend. What's that like, being able to kind of stay down here in South Florida and get the team situated to start the season?
It feels like the 90s again. We played 50 home games and 6 road games all season long. So it's just the way that the schedule worked out. Having Florida at home this year, and then I guess our first 2 ACC weekends are at home. That's just the way the schedule worked out. So definitely playing better weather. That's nice. Then we get the shock treatment when we go to South Bend in March, where it could be a snowstorm or it could be 70 degrees, who knows. But it's definitely a nice thing for a team this young to be able to play in front of their home crowd and kind of get their feet wet and get comfortable with college baseball.
Coach, during these first few weeks of the season, with all these new players, how are you going to approach kind of just experimenting with the lineups and the rotations, kind of figuring out what works for the season?
Well, it's going to be exactly that, experimenting, moving some guys around, different roles, different lineups, lefty righties, and the game has a funny way of figuring itself out, and the lineups kind of settle in when guys do their jobs and really take control of a position or a role and just kind of run with it, right? The less changes you have, the better. That means the guys are in or are getting it done. But early on, you just kind of smooth guys around and figure out what works and what's the best chemistry and have the best 9 players out in the field.
Coach, what are you most excited for in your first season here?
Just probably the first lineup exchange, right? It's just I wrote out my first real lineup, I guess, on the alumni game on Saturday, and that was not an easy task. I think there were like 6 or 7 that kept tearing them out, and we're throwing them out and starting over. But just excited to be in this role and really represent and lead the program that I just love being a part of my whole life. So it's just an exciting time for me.
JD, you wrote like 6 or 7 different lineups, and you're like, want to change this guy?
Yeah, just I can't leave this guy out, and how am I this in the order, and just trying to figure it out. So that so far has been the most challenging part of the whole thing, is trying to figure out the right 9 guys and the position and the batting order and things like that. So it's not getting any easier. But again, there's a lot of parity up and down our roster. Anybody can play at any time. So the spirit of competition is special. It really pushes guys to be better, and there is a lot of competition within this roster, and anybody can play.
JD, every team goes through challenges. How confident are you this team, being very competitive, especially against the big boys that you guys always want to face and beat?
Well, yeah, challenge is always going to come up, right? This game, life is easy when things are going right, but the reality that challenges are going to present themselves, that's an obvious. I think we've prepared them pretty good as far as the competition that they go through each and every day, overcoming the good days and the bad days. And it's going to be challenging, I get it, but it's how a team reacts, and I think what I've seen so far with this team and these players individually, they've done a good job of answering that bell when things aren't going their way and aren't going right, just kind of responding the right way and just fighting through things.
In your first season as the head coach, how are you going to lean on your assistant coaches to help you out?
Quite a bit. I mean, I've said a number of times I got a great staff, and I need all the help I can get, and that's why I work so hard in hiring what I think are the right guys and the best guys for me. So, I got to let them do their job. If I don't, then I didn't hire the right guys. So, but I'm definitely leaning on guys like Rob Cooper, that's got 19 years of head coaching experience, and Darren Fenster with all his experience in professional baseball, and Laz Gutierrez, and Brewer, and all of them. Jonathan Anderson has been a part of this program longer than I have. He's back since '92. So it's a great staff, and I'm definitely going to lean hard on those guys. And it's definitely a collective group effort. Any success that we have is going to be as
like Drew Dwyer's 7th year in college baseball bring to a clubhouse full of freshmen?
Well, he's done a little bit of everything, so we felt comfortable with making him the closer right off the bat, even though that wasn't our original plan. He was a closer 2 years ago at Lynn University. He was a starter last year. You know, this is his last hurrah, right? There's no more years for him. It's his 7th year, like you said, and he's just willing to do whatever it takes to win and be a part of this team and help us be the best team we can be.
But you got 12 freshmen on the team. You mentioned Cuvée. Who else do you expect to step up this year for you guys?
I think Jimenez is going to, at some point, he's going to play a big role. I think on the mound, Nick Robert has had a really good fall and spring, and just one of those guys that every time he's taken the mound, he's gotten better and better, and just does everything right. You know, Barkis is another right-hander. Like I said, he's in consideration for that number 4 spot. He's going to start one of the 5 games that first week. So I think those guys right there are probably the names you're going to see first. You know, Kulikowski in the outfield is going to be a special bat, a special talent. That he's also going to, you know, at some point this season, and again, how soon, I can't really answer that. But when he kind of gets in the lineup and gets rolling, he's going to be a guy you're going to hear a lot about.
We'll do a couple more for JD.
JD, you have a number of players from high school, either JUCO, just different levels coming into this, and you know, smaller college, JUCO, whatever it might be. What are the challenges of producing at this level, particularly when you get into ACC competition?
I think understanding the game is the same game they played their whole lives, you know, and there's always a message I put out there to my freshman pitchers over the years. Those that try to do more because they're at a higher level are the ones that struggle. When they realize that it's the same game and they have the ability to slow the game down, those are the ones that have success right away. You don't have to play better because you're here. You just got to do the little things more consistent. That's the only difference, really. They don't have to throw any harder, throw a better breaking ball. You just got to consistently do the right things over and over and over again. And those guys that are able to do that and slow the game down and understand that it's still 60 feet 6 inches and 90 feet, and you know they still got to catch the ball and throw the ball. Those guys will be fine. They don't all get it right away. The quicker they do and understand that they're good enough to be here, those are the ones that are going to be successful and contribute more from the get-go.
Coach, what does it mean for you to, after 20 years as a pitching coach, to finally be stepping into this role as head coach? We know with opening day just a couple days away.
Yeah, it was never a plan of mine, right? It wasn't like my goal was to be the head coach here. I just came in, showed up every day, and did my job and tried to win for a program that I love. Whatever role I have, I wouldn't do it any different. It's just a blessing to be able to sit here in front of you guys and be the head coach. But it wasn't a plan of mine. It wasn't an end game or an end goal. Something that, you know, once it became available, obviously I wanted more than anything else. But it just fortunate, and it means so much to just be able to be a part of this program for so long. I'm just grateful for it.
Any thoughts on the namesake milkshake?
Well, it's called the Be the Light. Obviously, it's named after my son in our foundation, and he loved the Oreo and Nutella combination. That's a little funky, but that's what he loved, and that's what we're going with. I'm going to try not to have too many of them, but that's what we're going with.
For the first series on Friday, did you kind of sense of like how the team's feeling in the clubhouse? If they're excited, a bit anxious after this offseason to play?
I think excitement is probably the biggest word, and you know, anxious. You saw it a lot on Saturday night. You know, I thought our hitters over the course of our hitter squad have done a great job of, you know, swinging at strikes and not chasing pitches out of the zone. And you know, we faced some pretty good pitching on Saturday, but you know, we struck out 15 times, and a lot of those strikeouts were just swinging at pitches that weren't even close. And those are all signs of you know, overexcitement and anxiousness and trying to do a little bit too much. That's why it's always nice to play that one game under the lights and kind of try to mimic what a game day was going to be like as much as possible, and just kind of get those nerves out of the system. I'm sure there'll still be some butterflies on Friday night. I know I'm going to have them, but it's no different as a head coach or pitching coach or freshman second baseman. It's if you don't have those butterflies, that means you don't care. You're not in the right place. So every game is it's an exciting game.
For Laz.
Laz Gage Seals obviously, you know, comes in as, like, you know, the top starter for the year right now, Friday night starter. What have you seen from him since you've gotten here, and how has he kind of maybe set himself up for that role?
Yeah, I mean, instantly you know why he sets himself up for that role. He has a big league mindset. You know, he's always out here wanting to grow, get better. He focuses on the right things. He concerns himself with the right things. He's been very impressive. He reminds me a lot of the guys that play at the highest level, and there's a reason why he's been successful. here at the University of Miami, and it's very evident to me with his mindset and his attitude.
JD mentioned Rafe is going to be the number 2 this year. These guys mainly come out of the bullpen for Miami so far. How do you expect that transition to be to the starting spot?
I don't see any hiccups or any bumps along the way, right? Aside from what any typical pitcher would face. We focus on keeping the same mindset, especially that mindset that he had the last month of the season, where he pitched extremely well. For rotation, we have 3 weekend guys, 2 that are battle tested here at the University of Miami. Eric Hernandez is a young man that we're extremely excited about, that had a great year last season for Miami-Dade College. What's interesting is that he's only been pitching for 2 years, so to be able to see him do his craft and not know that background, it's impressive, because there's a certain level of maturity that he shows or displays that's impressive. I think as you go down the pitching staff, the excitement about this young group of guys, very talented, good stuff, that just need to learn how to do it at this level, right? And there's a process to that, and that takes a little time, and hopefully that time is a little shorter than longer.
You guys have a very busy start to the year, 4-game series, and I think a Wednesday game. How do you, obviously guys aren't completely stretched out just at the beginning of the year, so how do you kind of manage a pitching staff kind of through that?
Yeah, we actually did stretch out more than our typical number, just so that we could be ready for this first weekend. And even the guys have been stretched out, right? There's a pitch count to them that is not as long as it would typically would be, just because it's the start of the season. So, like we've told the boys, everybody's going to be up, and everybody needs to be ready to pitch.
Coach, part of your role with the team now is helping athletes develop their mental skills. Can you talk a little bit about what exactly that entails and what you do on a day-to-day basis with your guys?
Yeah, listen, the one thing I learned in professional baseball, or at least working at the major league level, that the true separator is the mindset, right? Or the ability to cope with stress and with pressure, perceived pressure. But the brain is like any other part of the body, right? And we need to train it. We need to ensure that the mental side becomes a proactive fundamental. So just like we practice our pitching, we practice, defense, hitting, we're trying to train the brain and the mindset the same manner. So we do mental skills work, early work, or we call it mental skills early work. Every week we do a mental minute just about every day. So again, trying to continue to condition the mind, and touching on it every single day, and ensuring that the kids are applying it, right? Like many times we don't think about the mental side until we're struggling, but we're trying to make them aware of how to utilize it as a tool, just like they would any other tool.
Anything else for Laz?
Coach, honestly, with your roots at Coral Gables High School and here at the University of Miami, what's it like being able to be at the forefront of a new era of Miami baseball?
It's great. I mean, very lucky, very blessed. I feel that everything I've done up to this point, including being a 12th grade American government teacher and a high school coach, and then short time at Barry, then that journey with the Red Sox, and even my short stop at Nova Southeastern University has prepared me for this moment. But I think more importantly, being able to not only work at my alma mater, a place that I care dearly about, but work alongside someone that I consider an older brother, someone that took me under his wing when I was a student athlete here. It's special. It's awesome.
Coach, what's it like to work with a head coach now that he's also a pitching-oriented coach? He's been the pitching coach for a long time, and he was also a pitcher here himself.
We joke about it all the time because we've always talked about pitching, and obviously our foundations, our origins probably come from similar places, having pitched here. And so the philosophies are very similar, but as soon as you start working alongside each other, you realize, there are certain differences, and I think those differences play off each other and allow us to grow, and see maybe a different perspective that you hadn't thought about before. I think it wouldn't be productive if we all thought the same on every single situation. And I think that's one of the challenges of coaching at the college level, right? You're surrounded by the same people every single day, so it's very easy to create this groupthink mentality. So again, I think the different experiences, whether it's Darren, Jonathan, JD, myself, different backgrounds, but also there's some connection and similarities. I think that's allowed us to grow and maybe look at things a little differently.
Last, I talked to JD in the fall. He said that he tried to stay away from the pitchers as much as possible to give you that autonomy with the staff. How was he successful at doing it? How was that?
He's been awesome, and I think he's done a little too much, to be honest with you. I not because he's my boss, but I value that. I value his insight. But it's been awesome. It's been awesome when we don't agree on certain things and being able to bounce off each other. Again, I think that's when real growth occurs. And I hope he thinks the same way. But this has been a last few months that I've been able to grow and look at things differently in certain areas, and I hope that I've done the same for him as well.
JD mentioned, I think last week, kind of like having more people, or not having people focus on analytics. So what analytics do you like to bring in? Your coaching, do you like to use high-speed camera stuff, spin rate data, stuff like that? Is there anything that you like?
Yeah, listen, there is nothing. We're not missing anything here. I mean, I go back to my days with the Red Sox. I mean, everything that we had there, and at that point in time, we were a very progressive organization that was looking at not only analytics but sports science and trying out new technology that has become mainstream now in the game. There's nothing that we're missing here. I think the administration and JD have provided every tool that we need, but again, this is baseball, right? So it is a tool, and so to answer your question directly, I think technology, data, we can use it in 3 different aspects. Acquiring talent, right? Especially now with the portal, where it's such a fast-paced decision-making process where we have to make decisions. Well, the best part of looking at portal kids is that there's a performance history in place, right? And so what are the data points that we value as a program that allow us to identify that talent that we're interested in? When you look at advancing, right? Being able to scout your opponent and have more than baseline information and see some tendencies that are identified by our analysts do give you an advantage, right? Can give you an advantage, I should say. The kids still have to go out and perform. And I think the last part is development, right? And I think where you see it most in development is in providing feedback. But not only the coach to the player, right? Because I think coaches have always done that. But being able to sell it a little better because, hey, this is what the data's showing. But also the player being able to understand, when I perform in this manner, when I meet my objective, the performance output is what I need it to be. This is what my body feels like when I'm doing that. This is what the mechanics feel like. So I tell the kids all the time, instead of chasing these data points, whether it's velocity, spin rate, chase the feel of what led to those data points. So I think it's created a learning and coaching environment that's extremely beneficial.
Darren, just what's it like, taking over in this role this year, working with JD and everything?
I think anytime you get a chance to be at the ground level with a new chapter of such a historic program, I think it's a really cool place to be, and the trust that JD's put into me and the rest of the staff to kind of build onto the history that's here is really an awesome situation to be in.
Among the players you've been working with, the younger guys, stood out?
I think you look at our offense, and our goal is to have a dynamic type of offense with a lot of different ways that we can beat another team. So obviously Blake's here had an incredible year last year, and he's been really impressive over the course of our 6 months here since coming out last summer. Daniel Cuvée and Antonio Jimenez were two younger guys who, I think they have all the potential in the world to offer some different aspects to our offense, whether it be power, whether it be speed. And then you have some guys who have been here who we're going to rely upon quite a bit, whether it be a catcher like Carlos Perez or Dorian Gonzalez, and then J.D. Urso, who is a graduate transfer from Tampa. Hopefully will be that veteran presence that we need to kind of stabilize both what we're doing defensively as well as offensively.
And JD's talked very highly of Daniel Cuvée, obviously kind of a highly touted freshman. So what have you seen from him? What kind of sets him apart from other freshmen that you've seen?
I think the first thing that you notice out of Daniel is the power. He has the potential to really hit any pitch out of the ballpark to all fields, which is a very difficult thing to do. But with that said, we have to remember that this is still a kid. He's still a freshman that is going to make freshman mistakes, and I think he has the aptitude where he's going to be able to learn from those mistakes. And his development since last August has been pretty impressive. And then now that we're going to start getting some real game experience here, his ability to make adjustments game to game, at bat to at bat, and even in some cases pitch to pitch, will really kind of set himself up to be pretty good.
JD kind of described this team as young and scrappy. What have you seen from these guys the last few months?
I think that's probably a good way to put it. Like I mentioned previously, like we need to find different ways that we're going to be able to score runs. I know the team last year relied on power quite a bit. We're not going to solely rely on that. We'll have guys who hit the ball in the ballpark, but we're going to need to be able to, to essentially, some games we might need to single the team to death. Some games it might be finding a way on base without hitting much. It's having productive outs. It's running the bases really aggressively and making smart decisions. So I think the combination of all those different elements and with certain players having different strengths and certain players having other strengths, I think when you think about our roster of hitters, and not just 1 through 9, like we have, I think 17 hitters right now, each guy brings something to the table, and having them play to their own strengths, I think makes us a pretty dynamic offense that can score in a lot of different ways.
Coach, you spent the last few years with the Austin Red Sox to come to this new job. What did you learn from working with that organization for this job?
I don't think there's any the secret sauce, whether it be in college baseball, professional baseball. I think the way that you get better is that you work with some focus and you work with some purpose. So the way that our players are going to get better here is no different than the way that we would get players better to become major leaguers with the Red Sox. And so I think in terms of what I've brought here, I've brought that type of detailed work and holding guys to a high standard of focus and purpose behind what they do. Because I think every single guy here, hitter or pitcher, every single guy wants to be a professional by the time that they're done here. And between both myself and Laz coming over from the Red Sox in the last decade plus in professional baseball, I think we're taking that experience of teaching guys how to be professionals, how to work like a professional, meaning like getting something out of every day, getting something out of every rep, and bringing that into the college environment where the talent is not far off from what we were working with in the minor leagues. But here, our focus, our goals, I should say, are to win games, where in the minor leagues, the focus is on developing. And, here we're going to blend those two things. If we get better, we will win games. And, we're kind of putting those things together, and we have been since August.